Members of the press, thank you for being here today. I'd like to welcome you. We appreciate your presence. We'll proceed as follows. I'll make a brief opening statement, and then we'll hear from Laura Aloo, who will read or address you, read a statement that she has prepared. As we have done in the past, we'd rather not have questions from the press directed at Laura, but there are attorneys here that will take those questions. I'd like to introduce, as we begin, Ed Hadvis. He's representing another plaintiff in this case, and he will have an opportunity to explain to you who that is and why that individual has been put in the very same case that we're bringing as well. He's a well-known tort lawyer in Salt Lake. We have members of our firm from Parker McConkie. We have Richard Lambert, who's a member of Parker McConkie, and Brian Stewart, who's also a member of the firm. And of course, we have our plaintiff, and in this case, Laura Aloo, sitting next to me, and my name is Jim McConkie. So we'll proceed with an opening statement from me, a statement from Laura with no questions from the press, a statement from Richard Lambert, and then Ed Hadvis, and then we'll take questions from the press. Based upon our investigation of the facts in this case, we're filing a civil lawsuit today against Matthew Scott Alder, who shot and killed Afa Ah Loo. We're also bringing a case against the Utah, and I emphasize that, the Utah No Kings organizers of the rally at which Afa was killed. The group in Utah did not follow the national policy in significant ways. The individuals who we think are responsible for departing from the national No King standards were Samantha Cooper, Taylor Stapleton, Charles Padilla, Travis Hissel, Colin Lafamo, and Wendy Garvin. We're still investigating the facts, and there may be others that bear some responsibility for what happened, namely Salt Lake City or the Salt Lake City Police Department. But at this point, we want to carefully proceed and see whether the facts would justify any causes of action there. Laura Aloo, the widow of Afa Ah Loo, in this lawsuit, is seeking financial compensation for the loss of companionship of her husband and the loss of companionship of the father for two lovely children that she will tell you a little bit about today. She would also like to see safeguards put in place in the state of Utah at public gatherings, particularly political gatherings, where people are exercising their First Amendment rights and where tempers and speech can become hot and sometimes ill-considered. Other states have successfully done this. There are a number of them, many of them in the South: Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Nevada, North Carolina, and Texas. All have rules which change the gun laws when people meet in public spaces and at public rallies. In Utah, we've never addressed this question, and it needs to be addressed by the legislature. And we hope that as we move forward and the facts come out and the general public learns about them, that there will be a consensus that we need to follow the good example of some of these other states. If only the No Kings rally, the Utah version of it, had followed the national standards of no guns and training to de-escalate instead of to shoot first, there would have been a very different result. We would not have lost a husband and a father, and we certainly don't want these types of events to be repeated again in the state of Utah. So I'll turn some time over to Laura, and then to Richard Lambert, and then to Ed, and then we'll take questions from there. Thank you again for being here today.
Hello, I stand before you once again to seek accountability and justice for my husband, Afa Ah Loo, who was killed as an innocent bystander while peacefully protesting in a public space 9 months ago. Something that Afa lived by in his life and in his work was this: if you're going to do something, do it well. In the events leading up to his death, critical decisions were made without the careful thought and planning that situations like this demand. The choices made by multiple individuals were careless and irresponsible, and the consequences have been devastating for our family and for the many people around the world who love Afa. The weight of losing my husband has been felt every minute of every day by me and by our now 7- and 5-year-old children. As we have tried to navigate the impact of losing Afa, of Afa no longer being here with us, and make sense of how this could and did happen. At a time when 2 of the best kids on earth should be learning to ride bikes with their dad, running into his arms after work or school, and hearing him cheer from the sidelines of their soccer games, they live with the awful reality that their dad was killed by a bullet in a situation that could have been prevented. This is the tragic cost of doing something poorly when people's safety is on the line. Had there been proper planning, organization, and foresight, trained security at a large gathering such as this one would have been in place. It is unfortunate in the biggest sense of the word that Matt Alder was an untrained volunteer who chose not to follow basic safety protocols, failing to properly assess and attempt to de-escalate the situation before firing multiple shots at an individual whose gun was down and unloaded with thousands of people in the surrounding area. Decisions like this, made without proper training or judgment, carry irreparable consequences and put public safety at stake. It is my sincere desire that my husband's death will help all of us think about how we can make large public gatherings safer for everyone. There must be greater planning, accountability, and concern for safety when organizing large events, including careful consideration of who is entrusted with responsibilities and how those events are managed. For the sake of our community's safety, we need to do better. It is time for all of us to care about public safety in order to help prevent tragedies like this from happening again. Thank you.
With the power to kill and the use of that power to kill in a public gathering comes enormous responsibility. The No Kings organizers in Salt Lake City, without due regard to training and to accountability, empowered Matt Alder, a so-called peacekeeper, to fire into a crowd containing men, women, and likely children. And he did fire into the crowd without due respect for the sanctity of life, and as a result, killed a husband, a father, and a giant in our community, Afa Ah Loo. Again, when you empower someone with the ability to use deadly force and to kill, along with that power comes great accountability and great responsibility. And that accountability and responsibility were advocated here by the organizers and by Mr. Alder.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Edward Habas, and it's my honor to be here on behalf of Afa's mother, Taupoga. I'm butchering the pronunciation, and I apologize to her and to everyone. She goes familiarly by Fila. I have a fact sheet here for you, if you'd like to take it, which will give you the correct spelling and pronunciation. Afa's philosophy was one of respect for individuals, for individual liberties, respect for the rule of law, respect for the Constitution. And his death, his needless death, is felt deeply, not just by Laura and her children, but by his mother, Fila, and by his family, his colleagues, his friends, and the broader community, both here and in Samoa. Afa's death was tragic, and it was all too preventable. And it is our goal, collectively, to pursue some form of justice, as much as that can be accomplished in civil suit, and to bring awareness to the unnecessary excess force that was used here. It is notable that in all of the rallies, there were rallies in all 50 states, some multiple locations in the states. In all of the rallies all across this country, there was only one fatality, Afa's, here. It should not have occurred. So, thank you for being here.
Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask?
I know that there were at least 2 bills this session that were inspired by creating more guidelines for protests like these, and specifically around gun safety. I think both failed. Do you have any comment on those 2 bills, and if you guys worked with the sponsors at all on them?
Well, yes, we're aware of them. We have worked with one of the sponsors. And we were glad that the idea was introduced. Usually it takes longer than one session to get a bill like this through, especially one that's based upon an ongoing investigation. And so we hope that by next year, after this lawsuit has been developed, and there are more facts on the table, and there's a better understanding of how other states have addressed these issues, that at that point in time, we'll be in a better position than we are now to help fashion legislation that honors the rights of gun holders but preserves the peace and the safety that is necessary in our community.
And which sponsor was it that you worked with?
It was Verona. Yeah, Verona, yeah. Any other questions?
You might have said this at the beginning, but how did you come to the names that you listed as?
I can't quite hear you.
Oh yeah, how did you come to the names that you listed in the civil suit?
I mean the names? Oh, well, we have had people, one of the great things about the press is that when they focus on an issue, you're able to catch the attention, particularly of those that were involved in the incident. And we asked that people in the community who had information come forward and tell us about what they knew about the organizers. And so we carefully interviewed a group of people and listened to what they had to say, confirmed what they had to say, and then we hope in a very responsible way named those who organized the event. And the thing that's striking to us is that the organizers in Utah of the No Kings rally departed from the safety rules and regulations that the national group required. And as Ed said, we're the only state, when you think about the mass rallies that we've had, where we've had an incident of violence and an unfortunate death.
Have you had any contact with the defendants that were named in the suit whenever you were kind of going through different folks who came forward, or I guess the defendants' lawyers?
No, we haven't. We have not contacted the listed defendants on the complaint. We didn't feel it was advisable.
out, do you think they're purposely being deceptive when they apply for the permit? And if so, why?
Say that again a little louder.
It says in the lawsuit that they applied for the permit under a name that you can't verify,
Oh,
and
yeah.
a group you can't verify.
That's, yeah, I see where you're going here. That's a real concern. I mean, when you look at what other states require before they will issue a permit, it looks like, at least on the surface, that Salt Lake City did not follow those national kinds of agreed-upon guidelines. For example, on a political rally, they require security, and private security is okay, but they need to be licensed, they need to be trained, they need to understand that de-escalation techniques should be put into place as the first alternative. And so there are real questions that have been raised. They need to at least check who the sponsors are and whether or not they are accurately representing who they are. Why someone would use a pseudonym of some kind when filing a permit is just nonsensical. And so these issues need to be looked into. And one of the reasons we have started the lawsuit is that now Laura and Ed and I will have the ability to use the court to require that information be provided that we can't get otherwise. Any other questions? Thanks for being here, and we'll let you know if we amend and why, and keep you informed. Please feel free to call Ed or I or any of the lawyers at Parker and McConkie who are working on this issue. Thank you.
My contact information is on the information sheet if you'd like to